on there. But then I think that the round 4, round 5 picks here from TSM, the Shen, Lee Sin, are also somewhat of an answer to the Ziggs, because generally speaking, you either have to split push or you have to be able to dive. These two champions can do either of that. You know, you can send Shen out to a side lane, look to circumvent the Ziggs, or you can send Lee Sin diving in on top of the Ziggs, looking to kick him in, stand united on top of that, you know, can also be paired up alongside this Azir, and look to really get aggressive and take out that Ziggs so that you can then get access to the tower.
Yeah, last pick for Golden Guardians, though, is Mordekaiser. So, not too sure how the matchup's going to play out, but obviously Hauntzer's counter pick feels comfortable in this matchup. But I think the analyst desks were asking for a little bit less index on aggression here for Golden Guardians, and I think they've gotten that. You know, this is, you know, has obvious points that they can play from, obvious points of strengths in where they've been able to find a lot of their leads, but is not going to roll over and die if, you know, 25 minutes passes and the game is still even, which has certainly happened in the past to some teams.
It has. I do think that, you know, this is a pretty heavily favored towards Mordekaiser matchup. I do think that this is Hauntzer again picking for the lane. Shen has to do more of a just kind of surviving this matchup. You know, the passive with Mordekaiser is something that almost all tanks really struggle to deal with, especially once he does get up to Leandries. The percent HP burn on the passive plus the Leandries is very deadly for all tanks. So we're going to see Broken Blade with honestly a pretty problematic matchup. Obviously, you can look to try to attack the Mordekaiser pre-6 and look to punish him there, but this is something that I expect to go Hauntzer's way. He has played Mordekaiser twice this split. Neither one of the games went great, to be honest. One was that kind of pretty well-known mispick on the runes where he was playing Fleet Footwork by accident.
Yep.
So maybe you can throw that one out the window, but he hasn't been playing it a ton. It is a matchup I would favor him in, but we'll see how they want to kind of play out the game from there, because it does feel like, you know, they are much more about the team fight, much more about the group, and actually, you know, look to get aggressive. They do have fairly good poke. They do have fairly good engage as well with the Ashe, but they are going to be pretty dependent upon, you know, landing Ashe arrows, landing Morgana bindings, because they don't have any like direct hard engage point and click CC.
All right, well, as always, Game 1 is always a tone setter for the series. With champ site complete now and the players loading onto the Rift, it's time for Game 1 of Golden Guardians versus TSM.
Well, let's go.
And we're on the Rift for the first time in the summer playoffs. Azael, TSM versus Golden Guardians, the 4th versus 5th seed. Certainly the closest round 1 playoff match we have, and a fun draft. You know, a good stable draft for both teams here to set the tone, because nobody wants to mess up to kick off their playoff best of 5.
Yeah, you really don't, and that's why I think it's always so interesting to see what kind of energy teams come out with in the first game. You know, this is something where sometimes, you know, no one wants to be that person to screw up, so they're actually playing so defensively, and if you draft something that, you know, you have to play aggressive and you have to take dragons, you have to do these things, that can be a loose condition, right? That can be what's actually costing you the game. So you want to see teams play towards what they have drafted, play towards their strengths, not shy away from conflict just because they are here in playoffs.
Well, we'll see where the teams are setting up. It is just everyone fanning out, no one wanting to go for any sort of early level 1 aggression. Spica will be starting on the red side of the jungle, and it will be the same story for Closer. But Closer is not going to get any help, and looks like Treatz maybe, nope, just going to leave Spica alone there on the red buff as he walks down to the bottom lane with DoubleLift, which I think is where potentially some of Golden Guardians' edge can come from in the early game. FBI has been excellent in lane alongside Huhi. DoubleLift and Treatz obviously drafting a very strong lane here as well, and they are no slouches when it comes to 2v2, but if there's like an obvious place to look at here for this series, it does start for Golden Guardians, I think, in the bottom lane.
Yeah, I think that Golden Guardians is actually heavily advantaged in this 2v2. FBI has been a great laner. I think that a lot of the credit is also deserved by Huhi, who has been fantastic. I do think it's very easy to get the push here with Ashe and Morgana. You drop the puddle on all 6 minions as they group up, and you have volley that's AoE as well. It's so easy to actually proc the lethal tempo off of a volley and then have the additional attack speed to keep that push going. Plus, as you see, DoubleLift is going to have to play the cleanse stacks, right? Because this is Ashe arrow at 6. This is Morgana binding. If either of those hit you, you are probably dead. That means that not only does Golden Guardians essentially get automatic push in this 2v2, they also get TP advantage, because FBI doesn't have to play for that. So they're going to likely try to lock TSM under their turret here at some point, get a really preferential base with the TP, keep up the pressure, take tower plates. That is their goal. And TSM has kind of locked themselves into this losing lane by going for this Morgana after, or rather going for the Thresh after Morgana was already picked. And you can already see the value of Hawkshot here, as Spica was actually seen over on the Gromp, which allows Closer to go in for the invade here, and he will be able to get the big chicken and get out of there no problem. So, there alone, you see some of that advantage that Ashe brings into a jungle matchup.
And Closer just popping the Penguin and walking out of the jungle. Spica will go ahead and clear out the rest of the camp. But Closer actually maybe going to wait here because I think Spica wants this crab. In fact, both junglers are going to want it, so they are going to meet in the river.
But if this goes down towards bot lane, then they won't actually be able to contest this on TSM side, right? Bjergsen is moving over, so is Ziggs, but now Huhi can move up. I don't think Spica really has any chance to get that, so honestly I would have preferred to just see him go straight up towards the top side, take that scuttle, maybe try to get some counter jungling done of his own, take a chicken back. I do think that when you have already seeded push on that bottom side, it's so unlikely for you to be able to win a scrap around that bottom scuttle, and this has just put himself behind a couple seconds, honestly.
And then Spica though instead going to take the left crab as you recommended, maybe just a little later than he would have liked. Top lane is going well early for Broken Blade though, which is something we can check in on now. But Hauntzer's evened out the lane after Broken Blade got the level 1 going. Nice taunt though. Ooh, and going to miss as well. Yeah, really well played by Broken Blade.
Yeah, that was clean. And this is something where you can win early, if you're able to get good, clean trades. Because one of the things that is nice with the parry zone from Shen is, you need the multiple successive hits from Mordekaiser to actually proc the passive, right? So if you can actually deny those, they're going to go for the top flash, and they got him!
Flash taunt kick, first blood, see you later, Hauntzer! That goes to Broken Blade as the tower's going to hit him one last time, but it's not enough for the traders. Closer, he's going to try and do just that with the distance, but Broken Blade and Spica are already way too far away.
And the wave is even pushing away from Hauntzer.
No.
That is so good for TSM. That is absolutely perfect. And this was actually the third straight taunt. He hit 2 in a row. We already saw that last trade on screen. Taunt flash, Hauntzer cannot react. Notice how Spica knows Broken Blade would take him out, so he's going to have to flash before the Q. That is why there was the delayed reactivation on that Q. Broken Blade will be able to TP back in, collect this nice juicy wave here, has the preferential buy. Hauntzer just got refillable and a ruby crystal. Not only did Broken Blade get that, he got 2 additional longswords because he based with more farm and the first blood, so the lane is going to be looking really nice for him. And it's also key that they actually got into that top lane this early, because pre-6 is really the only time you could look for that. Post-6, it's so easy for Mordekaiser to just ult the jungler, but here is the play down on bot side. Spica's got to get out, because Closer could flash for this.
Ooh, that binding almost hit Spica, but he's just going to be able to get out of there. Good presence of mind from Golden Guardians to not freak out in the bottom lane, seeing Spica first. They knew Closer was there. No need to burn any summoners or do anything other than continue pushing the lane and building up your advantage. Just sitting at about a wave of CS right now. DoubleLift is going to be forced to stay to collect this wave so he doesn't fall too far behind. But
yeah,
as you mentioned, that top lane is already opening up for TSM. In fact, Broken Blade has level 6 right now, so potentially if they do want to contest for maybe this Drake, although I don't think they will, Broken Blade can join the fights in an instant.
He definitely can, so it will be hard to dive or to go anything, something like that. But right now, I don't think it's worth them trying to contest, and your bottom lane is pretty locked in there. DoubleLift is going to take the recall now. This is going to mean he will lose a full wave, but he doesn't really have any choice, right? He's getting poked out, and he's just trying to make the call on when it's best to actually base. This lane, as I said, very heavily favored towards Golden Guardians. They also went for Spell Thieves and Comet, which is kind of indexing more towards the laning phase there. Huhi going to have the additional mana regen that got buffed a couple patches ago now on Spell Thieves and Comet for that guaranteed poke with your puddle. But DoubleLift not that far behind, so this was a pretty good base timing. Honestly, could have gone a lot worse for them. He gets his BF, he's down 8 CS, that's okay. And now because he actually found this timing, he's not losing plates on the base because FBI hadn't actually gone back to base yet. So FBI kind of missed a window to really punish with his teleport. And because they didn't actually find a wave to actually push out earlier and TP back immediately to try to punish for plates, they really didn't get much out of the teleport advantage. So I've got to give a lot of credit to TSM's bottom lane here for navigating this, only being down about 1 wave with teleport expended. And they only lost 1 plate. I think they should be really, really happy with how they performed. I think this is a really strong laning performance here from DoubleLift and Treatz.
Yeah, DoubleLift kind of knows, even in a bad matchup, sometimes has to give it up. This is a little too far forward, though. Binding is not going to hit. FBI had the arrow ready, though, so DoubleLift certainly has to be careful with Treatz on the roam towards mid. We also saw Spica steal away the red buff, which is kind of an extension of the advantage that Broken Blade is building now in top lane.
I think we would have seen Huhi flash for that if they knew where Treatz was. But, you know, if Treatz is right behind him with the Lantern, then obviously that's not going to work out. You can just cleanse Lantern. But, you know, we've seen Huhi make a lot of aggressive plays like that. He's very willing to trade flash for flash to try to look aggressive here. They have Bjergsen pushed in on the tower. They had Mordekaiser push on the top, so it's an easy invade for that blue buff. Well done by Golden Guardians trying to take away resources where they can. And Ziggs with blue buff is so annoying to lane against because this guy is just going to spam out spells constantly, and if they can actually defend and claim that second blue buff for Damonte as well, that will put Bjergsen at a bit of a deficit. Bjergsen has gone less towards the laning item. You know, he has skipped Lost Chapter entirely. It's been kind of this evolution for Azir where Azir's early on in the split were going full Ludens, then they were just going Lost Chapter and sitting on that, then they just skipped Lost Chapter entirely and went towards, you know, like double Dorans or Darksteel or something, and that's what Bjergsen is looking at here. Comet is more towards the laning than something like Lethal Tempo, but he's rushing straight towards Nashers to be ready for the team fight.
Yeah, kind of knows that, you know, this lane is doing exactly what we've seen on screen, which is just farming back and forth. A little blue buff for Damonte is going to help in that department. Bottom lane, though, Spica is here once again. Closer is on this side of the map, but that gives DoubleLift and Treatz room to push out the lane without fear of being ganked. FBI is still up about 12 CS, so 2 waves or so, which is nice to see. But as you said, I think it could have been a lot worse. So DoubleLift and Treatz just trying to kind of float the lane with this disadvantage and, you know, just hope it doesn't get any worse.
Yep, and they're going to be depending on the fact that they think, you know, Thresh will be very useful come teamfight time, right? And we'll see what Treatz can get done there. Obviously, the box can be pretty annoying for the melee champions over on Golden Guardians. And, you know, we'll see if he can find any hooks or anything like that. The Merc Trud's Rush, I think, makes a lot of sense for Treatz. If, you know, he doesn't play cleanse, so if you get caught by an arrow or a binding, it can be very problematic for the Thresh. And we'll see if anyone else is going to be forced into a QSS or a Banshees or anything like that. I do think it would make sense for Bjergsen to eventually go into that Banshees. Obviously not as a first item. When you're against Mordekaiser, Ziggs, there's a lot of AP damage there. Plus things like Arrow and Binding are so threatening. I do think it's something that can get a tremendous amount of value this game.
Well, this is curious because Golden Guardians have actually moved their bottom lane to the top half of the map. I'm almost surprised this didn't happen earlier because Herald is already so valuable and even more so when you have a Ziggs in the mid lane. So Golden Guardians are going to make a play for this objective, assuming that it basically gets a tower if they can get the Herald down and have the Satchel in place, but they didn't go for it.
Yeah, I think they actually misread. So I think that they saw, you know, Treatz up there and they assumed DoubleLift was going to be there too, and that they were trying to actually match the Roman contest, not necessarily go for it themselves. In this case, DoubleLift actually did stay bottom lane, so FBI was forced to run back down there. Otherwise, he would have been losing plates and actually falling behind in farm. So it will be TSM, I think, that kind of gets the best of that little move. A little bit of free farming time there for DoubleLift. And now, because they see FBI down on that bottom side, DoubleLift gets first move. They're starting this up, but there's an arrow coming cross map here. We'll see if it connects with anyone.
Ooh, close hookshot, though, does reveal. So they do have vision here, but the objective, I don't think, is close enough for Closer to try and take, so Spica will smite that away, and rough stuff to lose that first Herald. Very valuable for what Golden Guardians wanted to do, but instead it goes into the hands of TSM.
Yeah, well done here by TSM to be able to grab that Herald for themselves. FBI is extending the farm lead, so, you know, has done well with that. You know, when we checked in at that TP time, it was like a little bit over a wave. It is extending from there. DoubleLift will have some farm to actually pick up here. But Golden Guardians potentially going to be starting up this dragon, looking towards that. If they could grab this second dragon quickly here, that is going to be very nice to threaten that snowball towards what would be an eventual soul. Either it will be Cloud or Ocean. Ocean obviously is kind of that doomsday one that people are most worried about. But TSM is moving over here. They want to try to contest. I just think that they're too slow, probably.
Yeah, Rifto popped as well. Dragon goes,
oh, the smite!
Steals it! Golden Guardians are going to try and win the team fight on the end of it. Treatz so forced to flash away, but Broken Blade's here already. It is going to be the Ocean Soul, and FBI is going to go down as Broken Blade. He's able to find that kill, and Hauntzer way too late to this one, buddy, as TSM get the Drake and the team fight win.
They're going to get the tower as well. That is massive for TSM. This is just going to blow Golden Guardians right out of the water here. Should be able to get all 5 plates off that. They got the smite steal. They got everything. I didn't think that Bjergsen was going to be able to arrive in time to really have an impact on that fight, as he was TPing down to the bottom lane and the dragon was already fairly low. But when Spica lands that smite, Broken Blade coming through with the Stand United, another taunt flash landed from him. He has been on point this game with the Shen, catching FBI, who was an easy kill after that. Hauntzer at least does get down here and defends the tower, so it doesn't fully go down, but it is incredibly low, and they're now moving their Caitlyn up towards top lane to try to continue picking up some more tower plates.
Yeah, up about 1,500 gold for TSM, which is very nice given how some of the early lanes were looking. Also nice for Broken Blade just to back up between his two towers, because doesn't want to get put in the Shadow Realm when he's trying to teleport to save his friends. So just really well played in general in the lane for Broken Blade in that team fight, and just good awareness to like not do the dumb thing and try and teleport in front of a Mordekaiser. So well played for TSM to pick up all 3 objectives basically in that little exchange, and now they're going to move back around and continue pressure towards top side like you said.
Yep, and I mean, it's great utilization of that Shen stand united. You want to be proactive when you are playing with a Shen. The more plays you can look for, generally, the better, because you're essentially having a 2-to-1 global advantage, right? If you can force Hauntzer's TP with your TP, or force that with a stand united, and then have TP advantage, then you get free objectives on the other side of the map. But if you play it too slowly, if you're always doing it defensively or reactively, you may not get an edge from that extra global. You might be doing it too slow, so he always has his teleport to match. So you want to see TSM continue to be proactive here. They are having match teleports right now, so as soon as that stand united is up, TSM will have priority on the opposite side of the map.
Herald is up in a couple minutes, I think, but TSM are just continuing to push waves and roam in. Bjergsen looking for Damonte. That's a very good ace in the hole after the Emperor's Divided. Damonte is going to go down here as Spica, the one to pick up kill credit.
That was really clean there from TSM. They knew Damonte had no flash from that dragon fight, so nothing really going on for him there. Cannot get out. TSM doesn't overcommit any sort of resources. No kick out of Spica, no flashes coming through. Ace in the hole, sliding in, shuffling in Damonte, grabbing an easy kill on the Ziggs. And TSM is looking so clean in the early minutes here, navigating all of these potential pitfalls very, very well, laning incredibly well in that 2v2, killing off the Mordekaiser pre-6. Broken Blade has been so clean in this game, and Bjergsen's winning his matchup. He's in the comfort zone now with the Nashers completed. TSM really has everything going their way.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at their 3 lanes, they have or had farm deficits in all 3 of them. As Spica going for the solo kill here, closes it with a haymaker. That's a step too far, but Spica still alive for now. Damonte looking for it, but no ulti to try and find the snipe, so Spica going to walk out safely.
But look at the level advantage. This Lee Sin is 2 levels up right now. I'm certain Closer has to be close to 8, so he'll probably, be only more like a level and a bit down, but that's still pretty significant there as the Lee Sin. Spica having a solid game so far, and he had been receiving some criticism for his smites. I think his play around dragons sometimes is where maybe nerves are getting the best of him. We have seen a couple weeks back where he used his smite on an enemy champion that didn't have it for the dragon. We've seen him get out smited a couple times, like in that TL game. But here, he comes out firing already, landing the smite steal against Closer, and has been looking very, very good on the Lee Sin in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah, just nice and clean gameplay across the board for TSM as Damonte is going to get himself yet another blue buff. Have not seen the Ziggs been able to really start a siege, unfortunately for him. Level 11 now though, so charging up on passive, charging up on satchel levels, also in constant fear of getting killed again because Bjergsen shuffles looks so good, but his flash is coming back up and Golden Guardian starting to group back around the center of the map because it is time to play for this first Ocean Dragon in 30 seconds.
Looks like TSM are going to be able to grab this bottom tower potentially. They don't know where everyone is, so they are just going to move over into the river, not take that down. Could have had it, but obviously they didn't have the vision to know exactly where Golden Guardians are. Golden Guardians, though, now committing to this mid lane push. They're trying to shove here. TSM has to respond to this before moving to the Dragon. Otherwise, they will just lose their tower so incredibly fast against that composition that Golden Guardians has. So by getting that push, they've actually now shoved TSM out of the river. Broken Blade is going to stay top and look to get tower damage down. He does have the stand united, so TSM can look to slow play this. And because they stole the last dragon, it's honestly not the end of the world if they do give up one dragon here. This would not put them at soul point. And for now, it looks like they're just trying to push all 3 lanes. And I think they're just going to have Spica try to steal instead of committing to the fight.
Yeah, thankfully they wait for the Q to wear off, so Lee Sin can't jump in, and Hauntzer is going to go ahead and get the last hit on the Dragon to give Golden Guardian the first lead in that objective. Like you said, though, it does come at a cost. Broken Blade is smashing down the top lane tower, the bottom lane tower is extremely low, and DoubleLift is, in fact, going to finish it off. So despite the Drakes looking good, despite Golden Guardians having a good plan, that gold lead is all TSM, and again, they've had deficits in all 3 of their lanes at some point, and it just doesn't seem to matter right now.
And I think it's so interesting because this just demonstrates how game-changing a smite steal could be. Because I can guarantee you that TSM wouldn't be giving that up if Closer was the one who actually smited the previous dragon. Because you're not willing to put someone at soul point this early on in the game. But because of one ability being used better by your opponents, essentially, because of that smite steal from Spica, TSM aren't forced to actually challenge in what would have been potentially a losing position by that dragon, because they had actually lost control over mid lane. It was Golden Guardians who were the ones who were over there first, and if they had been forced to funnel in, they could have actually died at that dragon and lost it anyway. Instead, because of that one smite steal, they actually get to take 2 towers, they get to circumvent even fighting for that dragon, and it just shows how big of a difference these little plays can really have in the entire game.
All right, welcome back. We do have a pause for a disconnect. So, of course, once that's resolved, we'll get ourselves back into the game. But 3,000 gold up for TSM, about 18 minutes through this game. I would say going as expected. Certainly not the way Golden Guardians wanted. I think they set themselves up well, and then TSM just played very well together as a team, especially with Broken Blade getting things going in the top lane. But it's not like the game is out of reach either. Like 3,000 gold is very much a gold lead that you can still make up for. And Golden Guardians have shown that even though they are very reliant on getting advantages in the early game, they are a team that has gotten better at playing the mid and the late game as well.
I think they have, that is something that they have been improving at, but I would still say that is their biggest weakness, and they are one of the strongest early game teams in the entire league. So, Golden Guardians, I think, are going to be very concerned by where the game is currently. It is still within reach, fully to your point, right? One big team fight win, you take a Baron, or you get another dragon, and you're at soul point all of a sudden, then you can really kind of start to see the finish line. You can start to see those win conditions coming through. But for now, I think TSM, this is almost a dream scenario given the draft and given what you're expecting the state of the game to be at this point. Golden Guardians did not get a tremendous amount out of that 2v2 that they drafted for. They're the ones that actually, lost towers first on both top and bottom lane. They did lose that one dragon, so they're not going to be able to get straight 4 dragons into soul. So TSM, I think, really is kind of in the comfort zone right now. And it's going to be up to Golden Guardians to try to make use of what they've drafted for, to try to find picks either with Ashe or Morgana. But that's going to require them to really start to eliminate a lot of TSM vision. Because if you see the Ashe arrow coming, if you see the Morgana binding coming, you're likely not going to be getting picked off by it. And besides that, it has to be like a set flank or something. There's not incredible go buttons from Golden Guardians. So if TSM have the lead, if they control vision, I do expect them to continue cruising in this game.
Yeah, for sure. And I think playoff experience is a huge part about how this all works out. As you said, Golden Guardians have never won a best-of-5 in playoffs. And Mark's very impressive double-lift stat was like, he hasn't lost a best-of-5 in 4 years, which is quite a long time for a player who's played in literally every split of the LCS and almost every playoff. Spring 17 double-lift. We did indeed miss you. But, I mean, yes, with the experience that TSM have, I think it's just, and the mode that this game is currently in, it just feels like this is a team that, at least for the first game, is cruising, like you mentioned. Although, there is maybe some ways we can look for TSM to get a little bit nervous later in the series.
And to be fair, we talk about TSM as an organization has an immense amount of experience, and DoubleLift and Bjergsen have enough experience for the entire team, but... Spica is pretty much brand new here to the LCS scene. Yes, he did play a little bit in the playoffs, last split, but this is a really young player who has not had a lot of competitive experience. This is Treatz' first LCS playoff series. Broken Blade has only been in the LCS for a year or two. It's like when you look over at Golden Guardians, they have a fair bit of experience here too. Hauntzer, played a ton in the playoffs with TSM, right? Huhi has been around forever. They have some young players there too. Some of the newer guys, coming over from all other regions like FBI and Closer have been performing very, very well. But Damonte was in Worlds last year. So, there's a mix on both sides. I do think that, there's always a bit of that intimidation factor, going up against Bjergsen and DoubleLift, because these guys have combined for so many trophies, so many titles. And DoubleLift, as you said, 4 years since he's lost a best-of-5 is just ridiculous. It basically seems like the recipe for winning a championship in the LCS is just get DoubleLift, and wherever he goes, he wins. Went to CLG won, went to TSM won, went to TL. How about 4 in a row? Back on TSM. We'll see what happens this split.
Yeah, DoubleLift won 7, which is the most ever. So that certainly tracks. If you're looking to win trophies, get the guy that has the most. At one point, Bjergsen was also in that conversation. He only has 5 right now. He's actually
only
behind,
5.
Only
Pathetic.
5. He's behind Xmithy. If he wins here, of course, he could tie Xmithy for 6 and get in second. But yeah, 12 between them's not bad. Let's say.
Maybe that's why DoubleLift came back to TSM, to make sure that if Bjergsen wins, he's still staying ahead of him. You know, there's no way for Bjergsen to pass him as long as they're on the same team. It's the big brain strategy.
I mean, it's funny you joke about that, but I've actually thought about that quite a lot. Where like at some point, no, seriously, at some point, Bjergsen had to say, "I care more about winning than necessarily having the most," because he knows that he's like, DoubleLift is the player that is most likely to win me as many championships as possible if we combine for the rest of our career. But he knows in some small way, and maybe it doesn't matter to him, but if they win, if they just play on TSM until they both retire and they retire at the same time, Bjergsen can never catch DoubleLift for the number of trophies because DoubleLift's just winning with Bjergsen the whole time. So DoubleLift's the one with the big brain.
And I think at the end of the day, you know, these guys are such competitors. They don't necessarily care about these individual records. They just want to win, right? And Bjergsen, you know, has that drive, has that competitive fire. That not only does he want to win here, he wants to be able to take that and find international success that he has been looking for so long. DoubleLift as well, obviously made it to MSI Finals, which was massive for him, but hasn't had the success at Worlds. So these guys have had the regional dominance. They're trying to look for more than that. They're trying to find the recipe to success there. And, you know, the first step, though, is going to be trying to get past Golden Guardians here. And, you know, there are a lot of teams that are looking very tough in the LCS playoffs, you know, coming into this. I think that, you know, not only is Golden Guardians a potential threat, but, you know, people are having FlyQuest, TSM, C9, TL, you know, that's 4 teams right there. You add in Golden Guardians, you know, that's 5 teams that I think very potentially, you know, could challenge for one of those world spots. And, you know, not everyone is going to get one. There is only the 3 spots. So teams have got to try to secure these wins. If you are starting here as TSM and Golden Guardians are, you know, it's going to take 2 best-of-5 series back-to-back to be able to secure one of those world spots. For the teams that did get that initial bye, you know, TLC9, they obviously are at a pretty large advantage. They just need to win 1 best-of-5 to be guaranteed top 3 and make it towards Worlds. But obviously the goal for teams right now is trying to win that LCS championship.
Yep, certainly a long road in either case. And we are still here on game 1, but as the issue with the first game gets resolved, we're going to send it over to the State Farm analyst desk to break down the game thus far.
Thank you very much, PastryTime. As he mentioned, we do have some technical difficulties taking place out there. Short update, players were experiencing some connectivity issues within the game, so we're investigating the situation. We'll update you as we get some more info. But, gents, team comps are up on your screen right now with everything that we had teased when it came to looking at this matchup prior. How do you feel the teams did?
Golden Guardians won draft. They have Ziggs. It's over. No, I mean, big shock was Golden Guardians triple mid lane ban, the LeBlanc, Zillion, and Akali against Bjergsen. We did say mid lane is going to be a pivotal matchup. Definitely did not expect to see 3 mid lane bans like right off the bat.
And I know we were calling for Golden Guardians to go a little bit more scaling oriented. Might have gone a little bit too far. The Ziggs pick did get a buff on this patch, and I'm curious to see how it does from here. But it doesn't have a lot of agency in the early game other than to like kind of lob ults around, and it's a little hard to follow up on some plays and things like that, which is really different than how Damonte had been playing. Even on things like Syndra, which he's played a little bit at the end of the year, that can still get involved in mid-jungle 2v2s and stuff like that. Ziggs is definitely a little bit of a step back compared to that. But otherwise, I think I like their draft quite a bit.
I like TSM's more. I think TSM just got very simple, very easy to execute. When I look at Golden Guardians' composition, I see something that is maybe a little harder for them to pull off considering what they have been playing most of the split. Whereas for TSM, this just looks like you come into the first game with the most standard of standard things possible. Considering the context as a best of series, you show up with the most basic draft you could possibly play. And if you win that game, great. You have shown very little. Now the enemy team needs to adapt. Well, they have tried something and it didn't work. So if TSM wins, they don't need to do any adaptation, whereas Golden Guardians will have to.
Well, and things are looking good for TSM at the state of the game that we're in currently in terms of building their way towards that victory. But I want to talk about how they got there. And interestingly enough, it feels like it's coming from the jungle, one of the positions that we actually largely ignored in our pregame coverage because we were looking at a lot of the stars.
I mean, it was probably the biggest mismatch in favor of Golden Guardians on paper was Closer versus Spica, but not working like that at all. Spica's been all over the map, able to get a lot of plays off, got a farm lead, got a monstrous level lead. You saw him 2 levels up there right before the break, almost solo killing Closer in the jungle. And if this is supposed to be your biggest mismatch in favor of Golden Guardians going this poorly, it feels pretty terrible. Like, this is supposed to be one of your power points getting dominated, and it's so hard to recover from that because the rest of the team is honestly doing what I expected them to do. It's just Closer who's underperforming right now.
I mean, kind of underperforming, but at the same time, I feel like TSM's solo lanes are just doing a lot of work that allow Lee Sin to be as proactive as he wants to. It's a lot harder, I think, for the Sett to find ways to gank an Azir with a Ziggs or a Shen with a Mordekaiser. These are not the easiest lanes to affect, and the only place they can go to has been the bottom lane that has been consistently shoved up from FBI and Huhi, who have been playing fine, but then again, you're just going up against a Caitlyn with a D shield that's just trying to farm and keep up in CS. So I don't think TSM is presenting many opportunities for a closer to gank. If he's looking for them, he falls behind in CS, and suddenly now he's 2 levels behind.
Yeah, let's talk about where those side lanes were getting those advantages, because you mentioned Spica getting aided by those solo laners in particular. Top lane, Broken Blade, early lane against the Mordekaiser, straight up in the 1v1, was bopping him as the Shen.
Yeah, I think he was dodging all the Mord Qs, and then Lee Sin was taking a good path. He knew exactly where Closer was going and got the gank off before him. So this is the kind of thing I really like from Spica is early kills in Shen lane are very easy, right? Flash Taunt is pretty much undodgeable, so he's guaranteed to hit a Q. So I like the early aggression towards the top lane. And then after that, as the game progresses, Spica's not really paying attention to the top lane as much. Oh, this was the gank. So yeah, if you're Hauntzer right now, you're just really, really sad. You can't walk up to the wave, and this Flash Taunt is just too hard to dodge. And this is such a good focus from Spica.
And it was a good setup by Broken Blade as well. He landed a number of those taunts to start winning trades and get him low, sidestepped a lot of the Mord Q trades back. So it was definitely a well set up play by both members. And Closer has been in the right spot a couple of times, but just too far behind to actually influence the play. That one there couldn't actually cover Hauntzer. And then the bot lane, Spica was going for a gank, and he was able to show up to stop it from going off, but maybe could have played a little slower to try and bait a potential actual counter gank, making the Lee Sin use his abilities going in. Instead, they just kind of showed up and scared him off.
It hasn't been a kill-heavy game by any stretch of the imagination, but Spica involved in all of the kills for TSM. Crumb is another crucial thing that actually Azael called out. A lot of this game might actually hinge on the usage of a single summoner spell,
Smite.
that summoner spell being Smite around the dragon.
That's right. The meta has been team fights, and then you can basically lose the entire team fight as long as your jungler can continue to smite away the dragons or the barons, whatever it may be. So that summoner spell is going to be a huge deal. I really think for not just this series, but for the entirety of playoffs, you're going to see a lot of games just be decided by somebody being able to outsmite. And that's not even factoring into the summoner spellbook supports and mid laners that can also join the party and try to smite opponents. So it's going to be really important to track how the players are feeling with the smite, because the ones that are just taking all these 50-50s or being able to deter everybody else from outsmiting them are going to have such a wealth of confidence to go into these objectives.
Now, while Mark, I'm sure Golden Guardians would have been happy to have had a third Drake in their bag and looking at Soul Point. One of the things we talked about could be an advantage for Golden Guardians was their ability to create leads in the early game. And so we had asked them, don't index so much into early game champions, since you have a proclivity to do that as players yourselves, and set yourselves up more for the mid and late. But straight out the gate, game one, they don't have that gold advantage. So how is this interacting with that point?
I think it speaks a lot to Spica's ability to change the early game, because bot lane had about a 20 CS lead. They were getting some of the Drakes. Mid lane was largely going even. And Hauntzer, after falling down to that gank, has come back and kind of got a lead. Part of that's due to the global nature of Shen as well. But I think it's been really great by Spica to disrupt that, because otherwise I would have expected it to hold true still. Like, I would have expected Hauntzer to out CS Broken Blade a little bit as the laning phase went on. Bot lane was already winning, and Spica's going around and stopping that from being true. And so that's why the gold lead has not developed from Golden Guardians, and they're having to play this game from behind.
Probably moving into mid and late again with no one necessarily, super close to a Dragon Soul, and about 2 to 3K separating the teams. Where do you stand on the way that this game is going to go? And for Golden Guardians side, pending answer to question number one, what's the solution for them? How do they find their way out of this one in what looks like it is mounting to be a TSM victory?
Well, I mean, for Golden Guardians, the nice thing is, yeah, they do have a good counter engage with the Morgana shield. The only way TSM's going to get onto you is, Thresh hook, Azir insect into 5, which is weird, and then like a Lee Sin kick. All these are blocked by Morgana, so I do think this game can stall out if Golden Guardians is in that position, which they kind of are. But I think the big issue that's going to go forward, honestly, for both teams is how they play out the mid game. I don't think TSM or Golden Guardians has shown enough practice in the mid game where they know how to get a lead and close it. So I'm really curious how this mid game is going to play, because right now the onus is on TSM. They need to be able to play and snowball this game, and TSM does not have a history of playing a clean, 20 to 30 minute mark.
It's interesting that both of them seem to have the same weaknesses. I think they have different strengths, like champ pool diversity for TSM, as well as maybe having some bigger star players who can take over games like Bjergsen and DoubleLift. But in the mid game, both teams can struggle quite a bit and kind of have lapses in judgment, either in picking their team fights or positioning and how do they rotate, lane assignments. Like, these are the things that they've been struggling with, even in their head-to-head matchup. Remember, right before FBI got picked that caught them Baron, or lost them Baron, excuse me, Huhi was able to pick off, I believe it was DoubleLift in their other side jungle. Like, both teams were trading those kind of pickoffs, and so I would expect that to keep up over the course of this series. Is mid-game, you're going to see both these teams finding ways to punish each other when they make those small positioning mistakes or rotation mistakes.
I do have a small update. ETA, roughly 5 minutes till we get players back in game and can be rolling through game one to close it out. Crumbs, extending a similar question to you, how you see the rest of the game playing out from here, coupled with the idea that Golden Guardians, I would imagine, as a slate of players, is feeling more pressure because, again, the org has never won a best-of-5 in the postseason.
I think the players are not thinking about the best of 5 and the record. They're really focused on the game at hand, because some of the record might not even be from the players that are on the roster right now. So it's not ideal for them to attach themselves to that. What I think they're thinking about is, in the mid game, as you guys are mentioning, you've got a Ziggs. You don't actually have to do anything. So sadly, I actually think that that's going to be the case for Golden Guardians here, because you can just stall the game out as long as you need to and consistently focus around these objective trades. And it does allow you to play inside the pit, whether it's a Baron or the Dragon, and go for a Ziggs burst to combine it into the steal. So I think Golden Guardians, with that 2 Dragon lead, is just going to use that to ride it all the way to a 4th Dragon Soul, and then come back from that position, because I think they feel comfortable if they get to a 5v5 setting with the Ashe, with the Ziggs, and the Black Shield. It's just about, can you survive the Azir shuffling into your backline with a Shen ultimate and a Lee Sin on top of it for the next 10 minutes?
If that player were anyone other than Bjergsen manning the Azir, maybe I would have some more confidence. But I think that's the scary thing for me when I look at Golden Guardians' task laid out in front of them. Azir manned by Bjergsen, Caitlyn manned by DoubleLift. I don't really want to be going into mid to late with those two operating, at full power.
Yeah, I mean, both these teams have a little bit of struggle, like not hard engage. It's difficult to engage, excuse me. Like, conditional engage, yes, you can have the Sett find a flank and ult, try and wrap around and ult someone back into your team. The Mordekaiser can flash, take someone into the Shadow Realm. You have the Ashe arrow to start it up, but no one really wants to run straight forward. You don't have great front-to-back engage necessarily, and there's plenty of disengage on both teams' sides with the Morgana shields, the Thresh lanterns, the Azir walls, the Kate nets. Like, both these teams have so many tools to get out of fights that the team that gets a gold lead is going to be one of these. You have to walk into them to start contesting these Drakes and Barons, and it becomes very, very difficult. So as much as Crumbs is saying, like, hey, you got Ziggs, stall out, TSM will slowly start creeping up on these snowball advantages and objectives, and you will have to eventually contest them.
I do think they have the tools to engage very easily, though, on the side of Golden Guardians. I think it's harder to execute on TSM side, since it's a lot more. I think the skill shots are harder to hit, whereas you've got arrow into bind or bind into arrow, and then Ziggs to just use spells on them. So that's a really good way to just one-shot somebody. And I do think Sett is a reliable engage champion. I think that right now we have been mistreated in the regular season to some Sett play that was subpar, but when the Sett players are actually playing at the top of their game, you have a very powerful engaged champion. If we thought of a champion like Vi as being an engaged pick, you can think the exact same of a Sett.
He's 2 levels down.
He can still press R, get flash ER. That's all you need.
Be quiet.
Probably the final word.
This is not about engage, guys. This is going to be whoever has tempo gets the objective first. Neither of these team comps want to go forward. Both of them want to sit in place and hit you when you come in. So whichever team gets the objective first is probably going to be the team that wins.
All right, it's all about the setup. You heard it here first. With the issue being resolved, we're going to hand it back to the casters to get us in the game.
Thank you, Dash. Now, earlier, players were experiencing connectivity issues, which resulted in a pause and a subsequent chrono break. And due to the delay for competitive integrity, we technically haven't seen that moment in game. So we'll probably see some DC notifications later on in the matchup as we jump back into game 1 of the series. If that sounds confusing, it is slightly, but I can tell you, we are bringing you as much gameplay as humanly possible as we've managed to successfully chrono break the game, which, given the nature of the broadcast currently, is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly just really nice. Anytime we have a situation like this, I'm so thankful that Chrono Break is the thing, because it was so terrible in the past when you'd have to just straight up remake a game like this, and it's like, oh, you were winning. Sorry about that. Gonna have to replay this. So it is really nice that we're going to be able to do this. Hopefully, we'll have no more issues going forward. But obviously, due to the nature of remote broadcast, of teams having to play from all their individual houses, sometimes they're going to have internet issues. Sometimes they're going to have, things going on there that we can't necessarily control. But hopefully it will be smooth from here on out. And as you said, even if disconnect notifications pop up, that's not going to be happening to the players live. That is going to be a delayed notification. So won't actually be affecting what they are seeing or doing.
Yep. Also, to clarify, I believe that the next bit of footage we'll see is actually what we missed, basically rebuilding back up the delay. So we'll see kind of, the gameplay that we haven't seen just yet, and then we'll jump ourselves back into the live game after that. So again, might be confusing, but we'll give you as much of the game as we possibly can. As a reminder, when we last left off, it was 3,000 gold ahead for TSM, 2-1 in Drakes for Golden Guardians, and things were kind of ramping up in the mid-game. So very curious to see if, kind of as the analyst desk was talking about, if these teams can be cleaner in a position where they typically haven't been for a lot of the split.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a challenge for them. TSM has looked really, really good throughout, the first 15, 20 minutes or so that we had watched. So if they can continue that, continue moving forward in the same direction, they're, looking to be on their way to a clean Game 1 victory. But Golden Guardians do have a Drake advantage. They are up 1 in that regard. So if they can grab the next dragon, put themselves at sole point, maybe something can be turned around there for them.
I also think, to Dash's point, we talk a lot about how there's an interesting mix of experience on both these teams, but the obvious ones, DoubleLift and Bjergsen, are so experienced in these kind of situations, and the nature of the champions they have, I think even if things do get a little pear-shaped in the middle of this game, I would put good money on those players to bail you out of situations when the game is getting closer. We're playing, 45, 50 minutes potentially. Not saying the game is going to go that late, but if that is what happens for your first game in a best-of-5 series, which is likely going to feel very long regardless of the result, it feels good to have such good insurance on the Rift.
I mean, this is a way that they have won so many championships, with the teams that they have played on, right? Just count on DoubleLift, count on Bjergsen to be able to team fight incredibly well. That is a pretty damn reliable strategy,
yes, for
let's
sure.
be honest.
I think, playoff experience is a huge part about how this all works out. As you said, Golden Guardians have never won a best-of-5 in playoffs, and Mark's very impressive DoubleLift stat was he hasn't lost a best-of-5 in 4 years, which is quite a long time for a player that's played in literally every split of the LCS and almost every playoff. Spring 17 DoubleLift, we did indeed miss you. But, yes, with the experience that TSM have, I think it's just, and the mode that this game is currently in, it just feels like this is a team that, at least for the first game, is cruising like you mentioned. Although, there is maybe some ways we can look for TSM to get a little bit nervous later in the series.
Exactly. They're obviously, even within this game, we'll see if they are going to be able to be pushed, to be punished here at all. TSM do have the Rift Herald, though. They're going to be dropping that mid lane, trying to look to knock down this tower here. DoubleLift, Treatz, Bjergsen, all moving over towards mid lane. And remember, Broken Blade does have the Stand United available, so this should be an easy mid lane turret. They will grab that. And it's also worth noting that Broken Blade is actually playing Ultimate Hunter here. So anytime he is involved in kills, he is going to be reducing the cooldown on his ultimate, which is actually quite nice. He did get, kills on 2 different people, so he already is sitting at 2 stacks. We'll see if he wants to build up any CDR later on. But I do think that this is, looking pretty good for TSM thus far. And as Golden Guardians try to regain control here around the mid lane, it is going to get more difficult for them if they have to actually send out the Ziggs to the side lanes, because they just lost the mid lane turret. They've already lost the bot and top outer towers, and Ziggs really does want to have that kind of bastion of safety to rely on, to be able to sit back, wave clear comfortably there. Azir is going to have the advantage more in those side lanes, can actually look to punish Damonte more heavily if he's out there, and it's also so much easier than look for a dive onto him with Stand United, or to have Spica flanking him and really kind of looking to take him down. Huhi now, though, moving down here to try to protect Damonte, trying to allow him to push it in, and going to be looking to attack Bjergsen, who is down here on this bottom side, being shadowed by Broken Blade for now. You sound good to me. True. Get it. I'm going to take over again because I guess you guys cannot hear Pastry. But the Ashe arrow does come in. DoubleLift having to cleanse there will be pushed back pretty heavily. But that is Ashe arrow down, Ziggs ultimate down as well. And that means that Golden Guardians just lost a lot of their team fight power here prior to the Dragon spawning. Those cooldowns will not be up, but they are looking to continue this push here. 4 members grouped up, and remember, Ziggs did get those big buffs with the passive, so they can get a lot of damage down on this tower. The tower down to about half. Broken Blade will stay up on that top side because he does have Stand United available, but we'll see, can TSM actually get purchased in this team fight? Because last Dragon fight, they were pushed out in mid lane and did actually not have the opportunity. As this, I think, is just jumping out. I think that is actually where they DC'd. So that was the end of the previously recorded footage. I know that looked really weird. We will now be then jumping into the stream of the actually Chrono Breaks game. Yep. So that is something that actually happened in the past. Obviously, there is a delay for competitive integrity in these games, so that is why that looked really strange. We have hopped out of game right now, and then we're going to be jumping back in, and it should be all good to go. Should be synced up with what is actually currently happening.
And hopefully you're all synced up with me as well. I know you can hear me as well. I believe the stream can hear me as well. But, of course, we'll let you know. You'll let us know if that is not the case. Regardless, again, not too much happening in there. Again, a little confusing with the Chrono Breaking game, but we did at least get to see what was happening, and we should be able to jump back into the game as soon as that is ready. So it does seem like we're setting up for this mid-game. Again, something that is very critical to be watching between these two teams is how they execute from this point. I think Golden Guardians obviously want to set up for this next Drake and make sure they can get it and get themselves to threaten that soul point. But TSM have done a pretty good job so far of controlling the side lanes using Broken Blade Shen and just making sure that things don't get too out of hand, which I think has generally been the where things have gone wrong for these teams, is when they get a bit sloppy, things start to go downhill, and then they're kind of playing catch up. But it's never a spot you want to be in, especially if you've snowballed the game to such a clean point already in the mid game.
Yeah, so we'll see how they're going to be able to prepare. I do think this Dragon fight is going to be incredibly important. The fact that it's actually Ocean Soul that they're going to be working towards here. So that Dragon is up. We can see Shen has moved down. This is now post-Chrono Break. The trap line set up there for TSM, and they're looking to just potentially rush this down. We'll see if it's going to come down to the smite.
Oh, Closer actually getting in there. The Dragon's open. Who gets it? It is FBI with a steal. And now Hauntzer in the backline, but Closer's low. He's got the Haymaker charging up, and here comes Broken Blade. Who he going to block the ace in the hole? What's the Haymaker? Broken Blade, he does miss it, but he gets the sword pulled through as the arrow is going to go down onto Treatz. Hauntzer though slays DoubleLift as he dives the backline, and it's an absolute mess, but Golden Guardians, they get out with the Drake. They get a couple kills. And that was chaotic as we get ourselves back into the game for realsies.
And that should be their 3rd Dragon. So the graphic hasn't actually updated yet, at the top, but that should be Golden Guardians' 3rd Dragon now. So putting them at soul point, neither jungler used their smite on that. The fight had actually broken out, and there was FBI who did take that down. And I've got to say, I think that Broken Blade really actually misplayed. When he was coming in on that flank, I thought he had the opportunity to just go for a straight-up taunt through multiple people. Maybe he was worried about it getting flashed, but instead he went for the taunt flash. He didn't miss that. He did get the kill eventually on Closer, but that felt like a situation where potentially you could get a multi-man taunt, kill off those people, and then punish with a Baron take here. So let's watch this one more time. As we know, Closer did look for the engage here, flying on in. Spica just wasn't actually back in time. He had the Q on the Dragon there. He did get ulted. I'm not sure. I guess he didn't want to take the Q in because he was worried about getting in range of Hauntzer, so that is why he wasn't able to actually land that smite. So well played there by Hauntzer. And then this is that flank I was talking about from Broken Blade. I did feel like there was an opportunity to go for a taunt on that 3-man clump right there instead of actually chasing the low HP jungler, because if you kill off some of those members, you can potentially punish with a Baron take, and instead they're not able to get that. They do go +1 as far as the kills are concerned, but the fact that Golden Guardians is now at sole point is incredibly concerning for TSM.
All right, as you mentioned, it is indeed the Dragon for Golden Guardian, so that is Ocean's sole point for this side. 24 minutes in, the first Baron is going to be started up by TSM. And Golden Guardian's not here right now, but close is close enough that I think he's sniffing out that a Baron take is being attempted. TSM are just going to pull away. No need to overcommit to that objective at this critical point in the game.
Exactly. They were kind of just saying, hey, is there any opportunity to grab this? Can we get something here for free? Obviously, when it gets spotted, you just back it up. You can see Merc treads across the board here for TSM, as there is some very good hard CC here with the Ashe Arrow and the Morgana Binding. Those are obviously things that are going to force out those Merc treads pretty heavily. 4 of them have already been built up. Mikhail's is now there for Treatz. That is actually a really big buy, because that is going to keep some of these other members safe who do not have the QSS. And, honestly, Spica might potentially need a QSS, because if Hauntzer is just going to run straight at him and actually, Mord ult him for those dragon fights, then he can't get out of that without a QSS. You can't Mikhail someone out of the Mord ulti or anything like that. They are looking for a pick now, though, but that is the Mord ulti used onto Spica, so Broken Blade cannot see him, and the rest of Golden Guardians is coming in here. It will have to be their treat, so it is just the trade of ultimates there, but I would say that goes in the favor of Golden Guardians, as that Mord ultimate traded out for the time of 2 people, and he does stay safe.
That is a really interesting interaction. I think Team Liquid were playing Shen into Mord a couple of weeks ago, and I was wondering how that worked out. So at least we have one answer to the mad science question of what happens if Shen's trying to ride in on someone in the Shadow Realm. The answer is you cannot enter the Shadow Realm. It is a 1v1 only versus Mordekaiser, but nice use of Hauntzer's ulti there to keep himself safe. And as you said, it's kind of a trade of cooldowns for the time of 2 players. So I would say, like, kind of a wash at the end of it all. Team's really just setting up for these next objectives.
Exactly, and Broken Blade, because he has a couple stacks of that Ultimate Hunter, he should be up to 3 stacks now. The cooldown isn't as bad as it would otherwise be, so that trade is looking more even as far as those cooldowns are concerned. DoubleLift now on 2 items. He did go for the double BF sword build that Freak loves. He's a big advocate of this. It is a higher DPS build. If you are getting consistent auto attacks off in a team fight, if you're hitting frontline, as DoubleLift is expecting himself to have to do here. But they're looking again. They actually TP in here. Can they actually catch him, though? Huhi's almost here.
Oh, gets the Black Shield down. The arrow actually hits onto the Shen. The grab, though, is going to find Huhi, but the rest of the Golden Guardians are here. Hauntzer's going to pull one in, but TSM still trying to chase. Good satchel there from Damonte to disengage the fight. 35 seconds till this Ocean Dragon is up. Nobody wants to take a casualty when they're setting up for this very important objective.
TSM looking a little bit desperate on that engage. It feels like they really are saying, hey, we need a pick right now. We must pick someone to actually win this next dragon fight. They couldn't get it, and now in goes Closer.
That taunt was so good, but that Black Shield's good as well. Closer with a Haymaker is going to go down,
there's
though.
Your pick.
And Broken Blade punishes Closer for trying to find the engage.
Yeah, Closer kind of just gifted it to him, though. Just hops over way too far ahead of the team. That is going to mean guaranteed dragon here on what could have potentially been Soul for Golden Guardians. So that is so big for them. You can also see that Spica did pick up the QSS that I was talking about. They recognize how threatening the Mordekaiser ultimate is when one Mordekaiser ultimate could deny that one steal that gets your opponent's soul. And when it's Ocean Soul on the table, that can just straight up be GG. So they are willing to spend the money to actually have that. It's obviously going to be useful for his playmaking too if you get Ashe Arrowed, if you get bound up. But the answers are really starting to stack up now. When we talked about Golden Guardians, they're so reliant upon the engage from the Ashe Arrow, from the Morgana Binding. Mordekaiser ult, obviously, kind of answered by that same QSS. There's 4 Merc Treads, there's a Mikhail's, there's a Banshee's Veil on Azir, there's a QSS on Spica, there's a Cleanse on DoubleLift. There are really a lot of answers starting to stack up for the very few forms of engage that Golden Guardians have, and I think that does become concerning for them because it allows TSM to have more of an ability to pick and choose where you are fighting.
Yeah, I mean, Hauntzer is getting some traction in the side lanes, but he's never going to bully Broken Blade enough, I think, to do much other than maybe poke down the tower and be a nuisance. At least TSM It's only their second dragon. Golden Guardians will have another shot at the soul in 4 minutes when that one spawns around. But we're starting to have to worry about Baron now for either side. The map is getting a little bit constricted for Golden Guardians as TSM are just playing their side lanes and using their turret advantage to have all this space to play with. So definitely a misstep from Closer around that dragon pit, but one good settle is going to forgive all those sins. That's who he looks for. The binding arrow also looking for it, but doesn't grab it as Treatz doesn't find the connect on the hook either. But hello, Spica. Sanji,
here they go!
Keep Damonte back in. There's the Sett ulti to get him out there, but Damonte, he's just going to get crushed by DoubleLift as the ace in the hole is going to land. He's not dead just yet. In fact, the counter kill comes as Spica's able to get it, and now Hauntzer 1v1ing DoubleLift. He's in the death realm. He's got no friends to save him from the Mord, and now Hauntzer going to flash out to safety. Bjergsen eats a binding there for Huhi, taunt by Broken Blade. Might be a miss if those FBI flashes in, gets the shutdown, gets the next kill. It's a double for FBI as Broken Blade, he's able to find the shutdown, but Golden Guardians will find the ace.
They couldn't quite kill off Damonte immediately, and he got a lot of damage out before he went down. Then Hauntzer finding the ultimate over onto Caitlyn, knocking down DoubleLift. Bjergsen got bound up out of that, and when those two carries go down, that is all of your damage there. TSM get out team fought despite what looked to be a great engage there onto Golden Guardians. They're going to lose the Baron off of this, and this could be Golden Guardians' way straight back into the game.
Yeah, this is basically going to even up the goal as the Baron falls down. We'll see it tick over, and they make sure to wait to give it to Ziggs as well. I do like that choice. I guess FBI is going to miss out, unfortunately, being in the death chamber still, but now 500 gold between these two will hook up the Honda performance play.
All right, let's watch this one more time. So this was actually a great attempt here from TSM. The flank from Spica looks like it's going to work out wonderfully well. Multi-man kick there, but they couldn't actually find the follow-up damage onto Damonte. I think they just thought he was going to die here immediately, but he got that Ziggs ulti out. He gets a kill. He got some damage down on Broken Blade too, and then DoubleLift, no QSS on him, no way out of that Mordekaiser ultimate, and they can't actually burst down Hauntzer. And then look at this binding. The Mikhail's a little bit slow from Treatz. That binding have mostly expired. Bjergsen got very, very low, and FBI just sees, this is my chance. He flashes in on top of Bjergsen, takes him down, and with Bjergsen falling, there was no damage left for TSM. So they lose the Baron here. They are on the back foot after what feels like 30 minutes of pretty strong control. And remember, Ziggs is going to destroy these towers if he gets even close to them. He has the Baron buff. He has the death cap. So one auto pretty much, and this is gone, and Bjergsen's got to back it up. They're pushing down in bottom side with Broken Blade, but he needs to get back to base. They're out of position. They're just going to lose this tower in mid lane potentially.
Also hooked up, but he's just going to put somebody in the shadow realm with him. It's Treatz! Oh no! The Thresh can't get out himself, and now Hauntzer has stolen all his stats. The mid lane's been busted open. Hauntzer still there as Damonte's going to ride the ulti. And DoubleLift goes down as well. Spica, he's going to be the next on the menu. Golden Guardians, they've just ripped open this mid game.
I think it actually end with the next wave here with 3 people dead and Ziggs. You could like 2-hit these towers. I think this is over.
I mean, they're certainly going for it. Why not? 5v3, Ziggs ready. I mean, come on, Tips, give me an order. Just one. He hasn't even done it yet. Come on, mate. Get the passive going. Bjergsen bound up again. Does pop the ulti, but there's one Nexus tower down. Golden Guardians going to pick up game number 1 here to kick off their playoffs run. What a way to kick off the summer playoffs, Azael. Golden Guardians will take down TSM.
Golden Guardians, what a turnaround. It felt like TSM was just dominating this game through the early stages, but Golden Guardians are the ones that out-team fight TSM. They win that mid lane 5v5, they get the Baron, and it turned out that that was really all they needed. Hauntzer coming up massive. They go for the 1v3 pick, but he's ults Thresh, kills him off, and the remaining 2 people can't actually burst him down fast enough, so him plus the Ziggs ultimate meant dead DoubleLift, and that's GG. Just like that, TSM go from fully in control to get out the game in a matter of minutes, and that has got to be a bit of a mental boom game for them. It feels like that is going to shake your confidence somewhat when everything was going so smoothly, and just like that, Golden Guardians just wipe you off the map and take game 1.
Yeah, I don't know what time it is in Australia right now, but if Spawn is watching, he is certainly smiling after the FBI play.
I know what time it is. It's Tanner time.
It is Tanner time, and it's time for Golden Guardians to pick up their first win. And it's also time for us to step away, but when we return, the State Farm Analyst Desk are going to break down that win.